The Australia by the government has orderly a overview of gas safety following expert alerted the nation just has weeks of gasoline, diesel engine and aircraft gas supplies leftward in its reserves. The nation's power secretary, Joke Frydenberg, told it was the reasonable and appropriate item to do but should not be interpreted as Australia possessing a gas safety issue. The World Power Agent expects countries to include 90 days cost of gas in backup, but Australia has not met such levels with 2012. In January the year, the newest information accessible, Australia detained fair by 50 days cost of gas stocks. 5 years back, it had almost dual how sum. The remnant would go of across the sea credits, a framework how would enable Australia to buy of across the sea if things went ill incorrect. Australia is now dependent on imports for more than rather than 90% of its gas as necessary. The wet oil comes of the Medium East and is machined at refineries in Southward Korea, China and Singapore. It is later sent to Australia as diesel engine, aircraft gas and gasoline. Mr. Frydenberg says Australia's trust on imported gas has enlarged in the recent 10 years since 3 of Australia's 7 national refineries include close and our national oil manufacturer has rejected by a tertiary as current fields be depleted. Australia policymaker and retired Air Defect Marshal John Blackburn said the Australia paper how we would include main problems during 2 weeks if down there were a main destruction to world oil supplies. How could reason main rear problems for Australia as it desired to accessing supplies overseas, and down there was, Mr. Blackburn said the document, no Schedule B. Stephen Innes, Asia Pacific Chief of Trade for O&A in Singapore told the position was really crucial while you believe the probable delivery disruptions the marketplace is now cladding. Australia would not be capable to footlights up a pipe of in another place, he sharpened of, proverb how the logistic for receiving option supplies would be huge. Such problems would get worse if delivery chains were too sluggish downward or sea vessels had to be derouted, for example if down there was an rise in the Syria dispute. Gender Barnes, Chief of Hazard and Elasticity at the Australia Strategy Politics Institution in Sydney told Australia would rapidly be dependent on institutional arrangement in some economies to paint of their reserves. And more than sharply, Dr. Malcolm Davis, a elder analysis on defence policy and ability at the Australia Strategy Politics Institution alerted of a crazy max planet if gas ran of. He said news how Australia was of the few countries in the planet how does not get our power safety severely. By the government says down there is no requirement for scare. Australia's gas supplies include proven to be unusually safe and elastic above the recent 4 persons many decades, the Power Secretary has tense. James Prest of the Australia Domestic Colleges Power Changing Institution in Canberra told down there were repeated source of delivery, so an disaster was not inevitable. But he is calling by the government to go a move future, proverb a overview is required but not a adequate move. Australia is the just IEA nation that is a net oil import and that relies exclusively on the business oil stockpiles of production to encounter its 90-day commitment. But time the expert accept how Australia is hardly to run out of gas, so length as the Syria dispute does not sharply deteriorate, maybe the largest worry about for consumer is they end up profitable more than to fill in the storage tank of their cars and trucks. And of year if aircraft gas gets more than costly how too could ultimately be gone on to customers, although domestic airline company Qantas, that controls almost couple-thirds of the national marketplace, has hedged on 70% of its gas cost for the following finance year. How tool it would get period for high expenses to filtering via to passengers.